Welcome. This podcast is all about presenting your project geographically. Geographers present their data in many different ways. We use photographs to present our data. The photographs you could take yourself using a digital camera or even a mobile phone, or you could use a secondary source and take them from the internet. Notice that the most important thing about this photograph is the detailed labels that have been attached to it. Geographers often present their data on maps. Here is a really simple example of how you can use a map when you are presenting your data. It would be really useful to present your data on transport as a map. Geographers present their data using graphs, and if you'd like to get a level 5, you will need to include at least one graph in your presentation. Notice that in this graph there is a label that comments on the patterns shown by the graph. Geographers present their data using field sketches. Field sketches can be drawn from a photograph or actually out in the field. The labels on the field sketch are much more important than the quality of the drawing. Geographers can annotate websites when presenting their secondary data. This is a very simple example where the location of Reading is shown simply by annotating the Wikipedia website about Reading. In order to make their data valuable, geographers must comment on it. If you don't comment on your data, it is simply in your project as a decoration. When you're commenting on your data, you need to do 3 things: describing, explaining and concluding. Very simply, if you only describe, this is a level 3 piece of work. Describing and explaining is a level 4 or 5 piece of work, and in order to get a level 5 you will need to conclude. This is what these words mean. Describing means saying exactly what you see on the photo or the graph. It will answer the questions what, where, when and who, and can be done very simply with labels. When explaining, you will be using because in your answer, and you will be answering the question why. Detailed annotations are needed in order to explain. When you are concluding, you will be stating what your evidence proves. In order to conclude, you will need to refer to a piece of evidence when stating what it shows. In all of these 3 things, you will need to be looking for patterns in your evidence. Here are some simple words that will help you to look and talk about patterns geographically. You will need to comment on what these patterns prove. It is really easy to comment on your data using annotations. This simply means detailed labels. Geographers don't need to write lots and lots of text. Labels on data is a really good way of being geographical without having to write lots and lots. So to conclude, presenting your project geographically, you may be using photos, maps, graphs, field sketches and annotated websites. It's worth remembering that for a level 3 you will need to include at least one geographical way of presenting your data. For a level 4 you will need to include at least 2 ways of presenting your data geographically, and for a level 5 one of your pieces of data presentation will need to be a graph. The most important thing about presenting data geographically is that you must comment on it. You can do this very simply using annotated labels. In your annotated labels you should describe your data, you should explain your data, and you should conclude what your data shows. You can do all of these 3 things by looking for patterns within your data. Good luck with presenting your project geographically, and remember to listen to the other podcasts.